The sun over Lisbon's Praça do Comércio felt like a warm blanket, a stark contrast to the ice-cold wine in my hand. Then my phone shattered the peace. It was my sister Amber, and she wasn't just crying, she was shrieking. "They're calling the police. Strangers are in my condo." I didn't need to ask what she'd done. She'd used the emergency key to move into a property I'd sold 2 weeks ago. I didn't gasp. I didn't apologize. I just took a slow sip of my Vinho Verde and smiled. If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type "interested" in the comments, and I will give you a heart. My name is Lauren Wallace, and I'm 32 years old. For the first 31 years and 11 months of my life, I was my family's load-bearing wall, the foundation they built their comfort on, the emergency fund they withdrew from whenever the golden child needed another bailout. I wasn't a daughter to my parents, Jeffrey and Holly Wallace. I was infrastructure, a utility, a resource to be extracted from whenever my younger sister Amber ran out of her own. To understand why I didn't panic when Amber called screaming about police and strangers, you need to understand where I came from. You need to understand the architecture of guilt I lived inside for 3 decades in Seattle, Washington. The rain there doesn't just wash the streets. Soaks into everything. Into the drywall of your life. Into your bones. It makes everything heavy and damp and impossible to move. That's what growing up in the Wallace household felt like. Heavy. Suffocating. Impossible to escape. My parents didn't build a home based on love or equity or any of those things families are supposed to be built on. They built a structure based on utility and favoritism so blatant it would have been funny if it hadn't been my entire childhood. In their blueprint, I wasn't a person with dreams or needs or feelings. I was a structural support beam. My purpose was to stand there, silent and sturdy, holding up the roof so Amber could dance in the living room without getting wet. They called it family duty, character building, teaching me responsibility. I called it exactly what it was. A long con where I was both the mark and the payout. The evidence wasn't hidden or subtle. It was parked in our driveway for everyone to see. On Amber's 16th birthday, my parents surprised her with a brand new crossover SUV. Metallic blue with leather seats and a sunroof. It cost $36,000. I remember the exact price because I saw the financing paperwork on the kitchen counter while I was making my own lunch, which I'd been doing since I was 12 because nobody in that house seemed to remember I needed to eat. When I turned 16, my father handed me a crumpled bus schedule and delivered a 20-minute lecture about carbon footprints and the environmental impact of unnecessary driving. He called it character building, teaching me to be conscientious, preparing me for the real world. What he was actually doing was saving $36,000 by convincing me I should be grateful for public transportation. The car wasn't an isolated incident. The disparity between how they treated Amber and how they treated me was a line item in a budget they thought I was too stupid to calculate. For Amber, they hired private tutors in subjects she was failing. They paid for SAT prep courses that cost thousands of dollars. They sent her to a private liberal arts college where the tuition alone was $54,000 a year. Over 4 years, they spent $216,000 on her education. They paid every single cent without complaint. They said they were investing in her potential, her future, her success. For me, they said they were investing in my resilience, my independence, my ability to stand on my own 2 feet. I worked 3 jobs while getting my bachelor's degree in user experience research. I scanned groceries at Safeway until 2 in the morning, slept for 4 hours, then dragged myself to 8 a.m. classes where I was too exhausted to retain half of what the professor said. I lived on instant ramen and protein bars and coffee that tasted like burned rubber. I graduated with honors and 0 financial help from my parents. And when I walked across that stage to receive my diploma, when I'd achieved something they'd never helped me accomplish, they didn't celebrate my grit or determination or work ethic. They celebrated the fact that I was low maintenance. That was their favorite compliment for me. Lauren is so low maintenance. Lauren doesn't need us. Lauren always figures it out on her own. They were right about one thing. I didn't need them, but they desperately, urgently, critically needed me. Over the following decade, I built a successful career as a UX researcher for a major tech company. My job was analyzing user behavior, identifying patterns, optimizing systems to work more efficiently. Naturally, I started applying that same analytical lens to my own family. And what I discovered was both obvious and devastating. I wasn't a person to Jeffrey and Holly Wallace. I was a diversified portfolio, a hedge fund they'd invested minimal resources in but expected maximum returns from. I was the safety net they would use to catch Amber every single time she inevitably fell. Which brings us to the condo. My condo. The one I bought 2 years ago in a sleek downtown Seattle building with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of Puget Sound that cost me every bonus, every stock option, every spare dollar I'd earned in a decade of grinding 70-hour weeks. I bought that condo as a sanctuary, as proof that I'd made it despite them, not because of them, as a space that was finally, completely, utterly mine. But the moment my parents walked in for the housewarming party I'd reluctantly agreed to host, I saw the look in their eyes. They weren't looking at my home. They weren't admiring my success or feeling proud that their daughter had achieved something significant. They were looking at a family asset, a resource they could access whenever they needed it. Holly touched the quartz countertops with her perfectly manicured fingers and said, "This is so much space for just one person, Lauren. It feels almost wasteful, doesn't it? You could easily have guests. Family could stay here when they need a place." Jeffrey walked out onto the balcony, looked at the view of the water and the city lights, and nodded with approval. "This is a good investment. Smart purchase. It's good to know we have this in the family." They didn't see my name on the deed. They didn't acknowledge that I'd saved for years to afford the down payment. They saw a guest room for Amber when she got bored of her roommates. They saw a liquidation option if Jeffrey's consulting business had a bad quarter. They saw something they could harvest whenever the golden child was hungry. I should have seen it coming. Should have predicted exactly what would happen. But I was still operating under the delusion that my parents saw me as a separate human being with boundaries and property rights. So when the job offer came from Lisbon, when a European tech company offered me a senior researcher position with a salary increase and the chance to live in Portugal, my first thought wasn't celebration. My first thought was panic. Who will pay Amber's rent when I'm gone? Who will handle my parents' inevitable tech support emergencies? Who will fix everything when it breaks? That panic, that immediate anxiety about who would take care of them, was the wake-up call I'd needed for 3 decades. I sat in my ergonomic office chair, staring out at the gray Seattle skyline, and I ran the numbers. I analyzed the data the way I'd been trained to do. And the pattern that emerged was devastating. My competence hadn't helped my family. It had crippled them. By fixing every crisis, by paying every bill, by being the reliable one who always came through, I had created what psychologists call a vacuum of competence. I had made it so easy for them to be helpless that they'd forgotten how to survive without me. Amber wasn't just entitled. She was atrophied. Her basic life skills had never developed because I'd always been there to handle the hard parts. My parents weren't just users taking advantage of my goodwill. They were enablers who'd outsourced their parenting responsibilities to their eldest daughter and convinced themselves it was a fair arrangement. I knew exactly what would happen if I told them about the Lisbon job. The guilt trip would be immediate and overwhelming. They'd beg me to keep the condo just in case. They'd say, just until Amber gets back on her feet. Just until she finds a stable job. Just until things settle down. And I knew myself well enough to know that if they pushed hard enough, if they deployed the right combination of guilt and obligation and family duty, the old architecture would activate and I would cave. I would turn my sanctuary into a crash pad. I would spend the next 5 years paying HOA fees from Portugal while Amber threw parties I wasn't invited to in a home I'd worked a decade to afford. So I made a choice. A calculated, deliberate, irreversible choice. I chose silence. I hired a discreet real estate agent who handled the listing off-market, targeting buyers who wanted a quick, quiet sale. My life went into boxes late at night, disguised as routine decluttering and organization. When my parents asked about my plans for the condo while I was abroad, the lie came easily. We were having Sunday dinner at their house, the weekly obligation I'd never quite managed to escape. I hired a property management company. I told them, keeping my voice casual, my expression neutral. They're going to rent it out to corporate clients while I'm in Lisbon. Short-term leases, very professional. It's all handled. Strict lease terms. No family allowed. My mother frowned, her fork pausing halfway to her mouth. A management company? That sounds so impersonal, Lauren. Strangers living in your beautiful home. Touching your things. It pays the mortgage, I said flatly, and I won't have to worry about it while I'm working overseas. My father nodded approvingly. Smart financial decision. Passive income. That's how you build wealth. They believed me because they wanted to believe me, because it fit their narrative of Lauren the responsible one. Lauren who always has everything figured out. Lauren who doesn't need help or supervision. 2 weeks before my flight to Lisbon, I sat across a long mahogany table from Ryan and Emma Cooper. They were young, early 30s, both architects with good jobs and better taste. Emma was 6 months pregnant, her hand resting protectively on her belly, while Ryan asked questions about the building's amenities and the parking situation. They talked about painting the second bedroom as a nursery, about hosting dinner parties on the balcony, about the life they were going to build in that space. They saw a future in my condo, a beginning. When I signed the papers and handed over the keys, I felt a physical weight lift from my chest. It wasn't just a real estate transaction. It was an amputation. I was cutting off the part of myself that my family had been feeding on for 32 years. I didn't tell my parents about the sale, didn't mention it to Amber, didn't send a family email explaining that the condo was no longer mine, no longer available, no longer part of the resource pool they'd been planning to draw from. I boarded my flight to Lisbon with 2 suitcases, a one-way ticket, and a condo that legally belonged to strangers who had no idea they were about to become collateral damage in my family's dysfunction. I thought I'd been clever, thought I'd outmaneuvered them, thought I'd finally escaped the vacuum of competence I'd been trapped in my entire adult life. What I didn't realize, what I couldn't have predicted, was exactly how desperate they were, how entitled they felt to my resources, how completely they'd convinced themselves that what was mine was actually theirs. I landed in Lisbon on a Tuesday, spent 3 days in a hotel while I waited for my apartment lease to start. On Friday, I moved into a small one-bedroom in Alfama with terracotta tiles and windows that opened onto narrow cobblestone streets. On Saturday, I took myself to Praça do Comércio, ordered a bottle of Vinho Verde, and sat in the sun trying to remember what it felt like to exist without obligation. The wine was cold and crisp. The sun was warm. The plaza was beautiful. I was finally, for the first time in my life, completely alone and completely at peace. And then my phone rang. Amber's name flashed on the screen. I answered, and her shrieking voice shattered everything. Lauren. Oh my God, Lauren, you have to help me. There are people here. In the condo. They're saying I'm trespassing. They're calling the police. I didn't ask what she'd done. I already knew. My parents had given her the emergency key, the one that was supposed to be used only for fires or floods or genuine crises. And Amber, entitled and atrophied and convinced that my property was family property, had used it to move herself and probably her useless boyfriend into a home I'd sold 2 weeks earlier. The war I'd been avoiding my entire life had finally started. And this time I wasn't going to be the one who surrendered. I sat in that sun-drenched plaza in Lisbon, phone pressed to my ear, listening to my sister's hysterical shrieking across 4,000 miles of ocean, and I felt something I'd never felt before in relation to my family. Clarity. Pure, crystalline, absolutely ruthless clarity. Lauren, are you listening to me? These people are saying they own the condo. They're threatening to call the police. You need to tell them I have permission. You need to fix this right now. Her voice was shrill, panicked, vibrating with the kind of entitlement that comes from never once in your entire life facing actual consequences for your actions. I took a slow sip of my wine, let the cold liquid sit on my tongue for a moment, swallowed. Amber, I said, my voice calm, almost pleasant, I need you to explain something to me. What exactly are you doing in that condo? What am I doing? I'm moving in. Mom and Dad said I could stay here while you're in Portugal. They gave me the key. They said you wouldn't mind because you're not using it, and I needed a place in Kyle, and I have been looking for months and nothing is affordable in Seattle, and they said family helps family. The words tumbled out in a breathless rush, the familiar cadence of Amber explaining why rules didn't apply to her, why she deserved special treatment, why everyone else needed to accommodate her needs. Mom and Dad said, I repeated slowly. They gave you a key to my condo and told you that you could move in. Yes. They said you were renting it out, but that family came first and that you'd understand. They said you always understand. Lauren, these people are being so mean. They're saying I broke in, They're saying they own it. You need to call them and explain that. Amber. I interrupted, my voice still eerily calm. I need you to stop talking for a moment. Can you do that? She hiccuped, her sobs quieting slightly. What? I sold the condo. 2 weeks before I left for Lisbon. I sold it to Ryan and Emma Cooper. They own it now. Legally. Completely. You are currently trespassing in their home. The silence that followed was absolute. I could hear background noise, voices arguing, someone saying something about legal right to evict. But Amber had gone completely quiet. Processing. Trying to understand how the universe had suddenly stopped arranging itself around her convenience. You what? Her voice came out small, confused, like I just told her the sky was actually green. I sold my property. My condo. The one I bought with my money. I sold it to a nice couple who are about to have a baby. And you just broke into their home using a key that no longer gives you access to anything. But Mom and Dad said. Mom and Dad don't own that condo, Amber. They never owned it. I owned it. Past tense. I sold it. Present tense, you are committing a crime. You're lying, she said, her voice taking on that whiny, accusatory tone she'd perfected by age 7. You're lying because you're mad at me about something. This is one of your weird games. Just tell these people you gave me permission, and we can sort this out later when you're not being crazy. That word. Crazy. The weapon my family deployed whenever I refused to accommodate their dysfunction. Whenever I set a boundary or said no or pointed out that their behavior was unreasonable. I was being crazy. I was being difficult. I was being the problem. Put the homeowner on the phone, I said. What? No. Lauren, you need to. Put Ryan Cooper on the phone right now, Amber. Or I'm hanging up, and you can explain to the police why you broke into his house. I heard fumbling, muffled arguing, then a male voice came on the line. Tight. Professional. Barely containing his anger. This is Ryan Cooper. Who am I speaking with? Mr. Cooper, this is Lauren Wallace. I'm the previous owner of the property at 1247 Westlake Avenue. I am so incredibly sorry for what's happening right now. Your sister is currently in my living room, he said, his voice vibrating with controlled rage, claiming that she has permission to be here, claiming that you told your parents she could stay here. My wife is 6 months pregnant, Miss Wallace. We came home from buying furniture for the nursery to find strangers in our home, eating our food, with their belongings spread across our bedroom. Please tell me you did not give them permission to be here. I gave absolutely no one permission to enter that property after the sale closed, I said clearly, loudly enough that Amber could hear me. I sold that condo 2 weeks ago. The keys I gave you at closing are the only valid keys. Anyone else who has entered the property has done so illegally. I am not affiliated with these people anymore. I do not support their actions, and you have my complete permission to pursue whatever legal remedies you deem appropriate. I heard Amber gasp in the background. Heard her start to say something that got cut off by another voice, probably Emma Cooper, probably asking what the hell was going on. Can you send me documentation of the sale? Ryan asked. I want to be very clear with the police when they arrive that this is cut and dried trespassing, not some family dispute with ambiguous permission. I'm emailing you the closing documents right now, I said, already pulling up my email on my laptop. You'll have the deed, the title transfer, everything you need to prove ownership. Mr. Cooper, I cannot apologize enough for this invasion of your home. This is not how I conduct myself professionally or personally. My family has overstepped in a way that is both shocking and completely in character for them. Your family, he said slowly, like he was trying to process the magnitude of the dysfunction, gave someone a key to a property they don't own and told her she could move in without checking if that was actually true? My parents have spent 32 years treating my resources as communal property, I said. They genuinely don't understand the concept that something I own might not be available for them to distribute to my sister whenever it's convenient. I've been trying to establish boundaries for years. This is what happens when you finally enforce them from 4,000 miles away. I heard sirens in the background. The police had arrived. Mr. Cooper, the officers are there. Please show them the documents I just sent. Please tell them that the previous owner confirmed she gave no one permission to access the property, and that you want to press charges for trespassing. I will provide a statement via email or video call, whatever you need. Miss Wallace, Ryan said, and his voice had softened slightly. Did you sell this property and move to another continent specifically to get away from your family? I thought about that question. About the years of being the reliable one. About the vacuum of competence. About standing on the balcony of my condo looking at the Seattle skyline. And realizing I'd never be free unless I burned every bridge. Yes, I said simply. Yes, I did. Then I'm sorry they found you anyway, he said. Thank you for the documentation. I'll take it from here. The call ended. I sat in the plaza, my wine getting warm in the afternoon sun, and I listened to my email notifications ping as Ryan forwarded the documents to the Seattle Police Department. Then I waited. 15 minutes later, my phone rang again. Amber. I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail. But I needed to hear this. Needed to know it was really over. They're making me leave, Amber sobbed. The police are here and they looked at the documents and they're saying I have to leave immediately, or they're going to arrest me for trespassing. Lauren, please, you have to tell them this is a mistake. You have to fix this. I'm not fixing anything, I said. You broke into someone's home, Amber. You committed a crime. The fact that mom and dad gave you a key doesn't change that. They gave you a key to a property they don't own. That's like giving you the keys to a stranger's car and claiming you have permission to drive it. They said you were renting it out. They said family was allowed. They lied. Or they didn't bother to check. Or they just assumed that what's mine is theirs to give away. Doesn't matter which. The result is the same. You're trespassing. Leave voluntarily or leave in handcuffs. Those are your only options. I hate you, she hissed. I have always hated you. You think you're so much better than everyone else. You think you're so smart. This is why nobody likes you. This is why you don't have any friends. This is why you had to move to another country to find people who would tolerate you. I'd heard variations of this speech my entire life. Every time I succeeded at something Amber failed at. Every time I refused to bail her out. Every time I chose myself over her convenience. Amber, I said quietly, I moved to another country to get away from people like you. People who think my existence is supposed to revolve around making your life easier. And you know what? It worked. I'm sitting in the sun in one of the most beautiful cities in the world, drinking excellent wine, living in a place where nobody knows my phone number or expects me to solve their problems. I've never been happier. She started crying harder. Real tears this time, not the performative kind she used to manipulate our parents. Where am I supposed to go? Kyle and I don't have anywhere to stay. We gave up our apartment because mom said we could have yours. What are we supposed to do? Figure it out, I said. The same way I figured out how to work 3 jobs and pay for college. The same way I figured out how to save for a down payment while you were spending your trust fund on designer handbags. Figure it out, Amber. I have complete faith in your ability to survive now that you don't have me as a safety net. Mom and Dad are going to kill you for this, she said. You've humiliated us. You've destroyed the family. You're going to regret this. Tell them to call me, I said. I'll be happy to explain exactly why I did what I did. I hung up before she could respond, blocked her number, ordered another glass of wine. The sun was lower now, casting long golden shadows across the plaza. The terracotta buildings glowed in the late afternoon light. Tourists wandered past speaking languages I didn't fully understand yet. I felt light, untethered, free. My phone buzzed. An email from Ryan Cooper. Miss Wallace, your sister has left the property. The police took a report, but we've decided not to press charges given the unusual family circumstances. However, we did have to change the locks and hire emergency cleaning services. I'm attaching the invoices. I trust you'll handle this appropriately. I looked at the invoices. Locksmith, $850. Emergency cleaning crew, $600. Total, $1,450. I could pay it, should pay it. It was the right thing to do, taking responsibility for my family's actions even though I hadn't caused them. But then I thought about the vacuum of competence. About enabling. About the fact that my parents had created this situation by giving Amber a key to property they didn't own without bothering to check if that was okay. I opened a new email. Not to Ryan Cooper. To my parents. Jeffrey and Holly, you gave Amber keys to a condo I sold 2 weeks before leaving for Portugal. She broke into the new owner's home. The police were called. I am attaching the invoices for the locksmith and cleaning services that resulted from your decision to give away access to property you don't own. You have 48 hours to pay these invoices directly to Ryan Cooper. If you don't pay them, I will forward this email chain to everyone in your social circle and explain exactly what you did. Your choice. Lauren. I hit send. Then I forwarded Ryan Cooper's email to my parents with a simple note. Payment will be handled within 48 hours. Again, I apologize for my family's actions. My phone started ringing immediately, my father's name flashing on the screen. I stared at it for a long moment, watching it ring and ring and ring. Then I declined the call, put my phone on silent, and ordered a third glass of wine, because the war wasn't over yet. But for the first time in 32 years I was fighting back. And I was winning. The sun was setting over the Tagus River, turning the water molten gold, when my phone started vibrating with the fury of a hornet's nest someone had just kicked. 11 missed calls, 16 text messages, 3 voicemails, all from my parents, all in the span of 20 minutes. I let the phone buzz itself to exhaustion on the wrought iron table while I finished my third glass of Vinho Verde. The waiter, a young Portuguese man with kind eyes and an amused expression, came by to check on me. Everything okay, senora? He asked in accented English, glancing at my vibrating phone. Family emergency, I said with a smile that probably looked slightly unhinged. But it's their emergency, not mine. He laughed, topped off my water glass, and left me to my digital siege. When the buzzing finally stopped, I picked up the phone and scrolled through the messages. They were a masterclass in escalating panic and indignation. From my mother first. Lauren, call us immediately. This is unacceptable. Your father is trying to reach you. Answer your phone. How could you put us in this position? We were trying to help Amber. You're being incredibly selfish and immature. Then my father, his messages shorter, angrier. Call me now. This is not how adults handle family matters. We need to talk about your behavior. And finally Amber, who'd apparently gotten a new phone number just to bypass my block. I hope you're happy. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Kyle broke up with me because we're homeless. This is all your fault. I read through them all with the detached interest of an anthropologist studying a particularly dysfunctional tribe. They were all following the same script, the same playbook they'd been running for 3 decades. First, the demand for immediate response. Then the guilt trip. Then the accusation that I was the problem, the difficult one, the person whose unreasonable behavior had created this mess. What was fascinating, what I'd never noticed before because I'd been too close to see it clearly, was the complete absence of accountability. Not one message acknowledged that they'd given away access to property they didn't own. Not one message admitted that they'd never bothered to verify whether their assumption about the condo was correct. Not one message contained an apology for putting me in a position where I had to handle their mess from another continent. I opened a new email and started typing. Not to my parents. To Ryan Cooper. Mr. Cooper. I wanted to follow up regarding the invoices for the locksmith and cleaning services. I've contacted my parents, who were responsible for giving my sister unauthorized access to your property, and requested that they handle payment directly. However, given their track record of avoiding responsibility, I want to ensure you're not left covering costs that resulted from their actions. If they haven't paid within 48 hours, please send me the invoices directly, and I will handle payment immediately. I will then pursue reimbursement from my parents through whatever means necessary. Again, I apologize that my family's dysfunction has invaded your home and your life. You and your wife deserve better than this. Best regards, Lauren Wallace. I hit send, then opened my voicemail and listened to the messages my parents had left. My mother's voice came first, tight and controlled in that way that meant she was absolutely furious but trying to sound reasonable. Lauren, sweetheart, I don't know what's going on over there in Portugal, but we need to talk about this immediately. Your father and I are very concerned about these threats you're making. We were simply trying to help Amber during a difficult transition, and you've turned it into some kind of legal nightmare. We gave her a key because we thought you were renting the condo out and surely family should have priority over strangers. This is very hurtful, Lauren. Very hurtful. We need you to call these people and explain that this was all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. That was their play. Reframe criminal trespassing as a simple miscommunication, something that could be smoothed over with the right explanation, the right apology from me. My father's voicemail was less diplomatic. Lauren, this is your father. I don't know what game you think you're playing, but it ends now. You do not threaten us. You do not humiliate your sister. You do not create problems for this family, and then hide behind an ocean. We raised you better than this. You call me back within the hour? Or I'm getting on a plane to Portugal and we're going to have this conversation in person. Do you understand me? The threat was almost funny. My father, who'd spent my entire childhood telling me I was too expensive, too demanding, too much of a burden, was now threatening to spend thousands of dollars on an international flight just to yell at me in person. The irony was beautiful. I deleted both voicemails without responding. Then I opened a video call request. Not from my parents. From my laptop. I wanted them to see my face when I said what I was about to say. I wanted them to understand that this wasn't an emotional outburst or a temporary rebellion. This was calculated, permanent, final. I called my father's number. He answered on the first ring. His face filled my laptop screen. Red and furious, my mother hovering behind him like a disapproving ghost. Lauren, he started, his voice already raised. What the hell do you think you're? I'm going to talk, I interrupted, my voice calm and clear. And you're going to listen. And if you hang up on me, I will never speak to you again. Do you understand? He blinked, momentarily thrown by my tone. My mother made a small sound of protest. How dare you speak to your father that way? She started, but I cut her off too. I sold the condo 2 weeks before I moved to Lisbon. I sold it to Ryan and Emma Cooper, a lovely couple who are expecting their first child. They paid fair market value. The sale was legal, binding, and final. I did not tell you about the sale because I knew exactly what would happen if I did. You would have tried to talk me out of it. You would have guilt-tripped me into keeping it as some kind of family safety net. You would have made it impossible for me to leave cleanly. We had a right to know, my mother said, her voice shaking with indignation. That condo was a family resource. It was my property, I said, purchased with my money, maintained with my money, and I had every right to sell it without consulting you. But here's where it gets interesting. You two gave Amber a key to property you didn't own, didn't verify you had permission to access, and told her she could move in. That's not a misunderstanding. That's not a miscommunication. That's trespassing. That's breaking and entering. That's a crime. We were helping our daughter, my father said. Amber was in a difficult situation. Amber is 30 years old, I said. She has a college degree you paid $200,000 for. She has had countless opportunities that I never had. And she's in a difficult situation because she's never learned to handle her own problems, because you've spent her entire life making me handle them for her. That's not fair, my mother protested. We've treated you both equally. I laughed. Actually laughed. Felt good. Equally? You gave Amber a $36,000 car for her 16th birthday and gave me a bus pass. You paid for private tutors and SAT prep and 4 years of private college for her while I worked 3 jobs to pay for state school. You've bailed her out of every crisis, every bad decision, every consequence she's ever faced. And you've expected me to do the same, to be the backup plan, the emergency fund, the resource you withdraw from whenever Amber needs something. We raised you to be responsible, my father said, to be self-sufficient. You raised me to be useful, I corrected. There's a difference. And I'm done being useful to people who've never once asked if I needed help, who've never once celebrated my success without qualifying it with how easy I had it, or how I should be grateful I'm so low maintenance. This is about money, my mother said, her voice taking on that wounded tone she used when she wanted to make me feel guilty. You're punishing us because you think we spent more on Amber than on you. That's so petty, Lauren. So small. This is about respect, I said. This is about boundaries. This is about the fact that you gave away access to my home without asking if you had the right to do that. And now you're facing consequences, and instead of apologizing, instead of taking responsibility, you're blaming me for your choices. What consequences? My father demanded. Some cleaning bills? We'll pay them. Is that what this is about? Money. The Coopers want $1,450 for the locksmith and the emergency cleaning crew, I said. You have 48 hours to pay them directly. If you don't, I'll pay it myself and then I'll send a detailed email to everyone in your social circle explaining exactly what happened. I'll explain that you broke into someone's home. I'll explain that the police were called. I'll explain that your golden child daughter committed a crime because you told her she had permission to enter property you don't own. My mother's face went white. You wouldn't humiliate us like that. Try me, I said. You've spent 32 years treating me like an ATM, and a free therapy service and a problem solver for Amber's disasters. I'm done. I'm establishing boundaries. And if you can't respect those boundaries, then you can deal with the social consequences of your own actions. We're your parents, my father said, and for the first time, I heard something other than anger in his voice, something that might have been fear. You can't just cut us off over some misunderstanding about a condo. I'm not cutting you off over a misunderstanding, I said. I'm cutting you off because you've demonstrated repeatedly and consistently that you see me as a resource rather than a person. Because you gave away access to my property without asking. Because when I set a boundary, you tried to guilt me into removing it. Because you're more worried about being embarrassed than you are about the fact that you helped your daughter commit a crime. Lauren, please, my mother said, tears starting to form in her eyes. Real ones this time, not the performative crying she did when she wanted sympathy. Don't do this. Don't throw away your family over pride. I'm not throwing away my family, I said quietly. I'm protecting myself from people who've been taking advantage of me for 3 decades. There's a difference. I could see them processing this, see them trying to figure out which approach would work. The guilt trip had failed. The anger had failed. The appeals to family loyalty had failed. They were running out of tools in their manipulation toolkit. What do you want from us? My father asked finally. What do we have to do to fix this? Pay the Coopers within 48 hours, I said. Send me confirmation that you've paid. And then I want space. I want you to stop calling me to solve Amber's problems. I want you to stop treating my resources as family property. I want you to respect that I'm a separate person with my own life and my own boundaries. And if we do all that, my mother asked, then maybe eventually we can have a relationship that's based on mutual respect instead of utility, I said. But that's a long road. And it starts with you taking responsibility for what you did. My father opened his mouth to argue, but I didn't give him the chance. 48 hours, I said. The clock is ticking. I ended the call, closed my laptop, sat back in my chair and let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for 32 years. The plaza was quieter now. The sun had fully set, leaving behind a deep blue twilight. The lights from the surrounding buildings reflected off the river, creating ribbons of gold on dark water. My phone buzzed one more time. An email. From someone I didn't expect. Ryan Cooper. Miss Wallace, I wanted to reach out personally to tell you that your email was unnecessary but appreciated. After speaking with my wife, we've decided not to pursue payment from anyone. The costs were minimal and frankly, we feel terrible that you're dealing with this kind of family dysfunction. We saw the police report. We know your sister genuinely believes she had permission to be here because your parents told her she did. We know you're 4,000 miles away trying to start a new life. Please don't let this situation cost you any more than it already has. The locks are changed. The apartment is clean. We're moving on. We hope you can too. Emma wanted me to tell you that any woman who moves to another continent to escape her family is probably making the right choice. We wish you all the best in Lisbon. Ryan and Emma Cooper. I read the email 3 times. Felt something tight in my chest finally loosen. They were giving me grace I didn't deserve and hadn't asked for. They were releasing me from responsibility for my family's actions. I wrote back immediately. Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, thank you for your extraordinary kindness. You've given me a gift I won't forget. I hope your daughter or son grows up in the beautiful home you're creating. And I hope they never have to choose between family and freedom the way I did. With gratitude, Lauren, I closed my email, finished my wine, paid my bill and walked back to my apartment through narrow cobblestone streets that smelled like grilled sardines and the sea. 48 hours until I found out if my parents would respect my boundaries or choose pride over relationship. 48 hours until I learned whether the bridge I'd burned would stay burned or if they'd try to rebuild it on their terms. But for tonight I was free. And freedom, I was learning, tasted a lot like cold Portuguese wine and victory. The 48 hours passed slowly, each minute stretching like taffy. I went to work at my new company, smiled at my new colleagues, tried to focus on user interface designs while my phone sat silent on my desk like a bomb that might or might not detonate. My parents didn't call, didn't email, didn't send angry text messages or guilt-laden voicemails. The silence was somehow worse than the confrontation. On the morning of the third day, exactly 49 hours after my ultimatum, I received an email. Not from my parents. From Ryan Cooper. Miss Wallace, I wanted to inform you that we received a payment this morning via wire transfer from a Jeffrey Wallace in the amount of $1,450. The memo line said, Locksmith and Cleaning Services. We are returning the funds. As we stated previously, we don't need or want payment for this situation. However, I thought you should know that your father did follow through. Best, Ryan Cooper. I stared at that email for a long time. My father had paid. Had actually taken responsibility for something. Had actually absorbed a consequence instead of deflecting it onto me. It was such an alien concept that I had trouble processing it. I wrote back to Ryan thanking him for the update and insisting he keep the money, that my parents owed him that and more for the invasion of his home. Then I waited. Surely a payment would come with communication, an explanation, an apology, something. But my phone stayed silent. 3 days passed, then a week, then 2 weeks. I started to relax into my new life in Lisbon. I learned to navigate the tram system. I found a cafe that made perfect pastéis de nata. I made friends with my neighbor, an elderly woman named Teresa who spoke no English but communicated beautifully through gestures and shared plates of food. I was starting to believe that maybe, possibly, I'd actually escaped. That the bridge had burned completely and I was finally genuinely free. Then I got the LinkedIn message. It was from someone I'd worked with briefly in Seattle. A woman named Jennifer who'd left my company 2 years ago to work for a consulting firm. Lauren, I hope this isn't overstepping, but I thought you should know something. Your father's firm just lost a major client. I work with Pinnacle Group now, and there's been some drama. Apparently one of their executives, Ryan Cooper, pulled his company's contract with your dad's firm. From what I heard, it had something to do with a family member breaking into Cooper's house. I'm not sure of the details, but the word around the office is that your father's business is in serious trouble. Just thought you should know. Hope Lisbon is treating you well. Jennifer. I read the message 3 times, my coffee getting cold in my hand. Ryan Cooper wasn't just a random homebuyer. He was the CFO of Pinnacle Group. And Pinnacle Group was my father's biggest client. The client that represented 40% of his consulting firm's revenue. The client he'd spent 15 years cultivating, schmoozing, impressing. And Ryan had pulled the contract. Had severed the relationship. Because my sister, enabled by my parents, had broken into his home. The professional consequences I'd never even considered were cascading through my father's life like dominoes. I sat there in my sunny Lisbon apartment, trying to feel something about this information. Guilt maybe. Remorse. Some kind of daughterly concern for my father's business collapsing. But what I actually felt was a cold, clinical satisfaction. This was the vacuum of competence working exactly as it should. For 32 years I'd been the safety net. The problem solver. The one who fixed messes before they became catastrophes. I'd protected my family from consequences so efficiently that they'd forgotten consequences existed. Now, for the first time in their lives, they were facing the actual cost of their actions. Amber's entitlement had collided with real-world boundaries. My parents' assumption that my property was family property had destroyed my father's most important business relationship. And I was 4,000 miles away, drinking coffee and eating pastries, completely unable to fix it for them, completely unwilling to try. My phone rang. My father's number. I stared at it for a long moment, then answered. Lauren. His voice sounded older, tired. The bluster was completely gone. Dad. I need to talk to you about Ryan Cooper. I heard you lost the Pinnacle contract, I said. Jennifer reached out. He pulled it because of what happened, my father said. Because Amber broke into his house. Because we gave her the key. He said he can't do business with someone whose family doesn't respect boundaries or property law. He said it's a trust issue. That if I can't manage my own family's behavior, how can he trust me to manage his company's consulting needs? That's a reasonable position, I said. My father made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Reasonable. Yes, very reasonable. Lauren, this is going to destroy the firm. Pinnacle was 40% of our revenue. I'm going to have to lay off half my staff. I might have to close entirely. I took a sip of my coffee. Let the silence stretch. I need you to help me, he said finally. I need you to write to Ryan. Explain that this was all a misunderstanding. Tell him that you'd given Amber permission but forgot to communicate it. Tell him that it was your fault, not ours. He respects you. I can tell from the way he talked about you. If you take responsibility, if you smooth this over, he might reconsider. And there it was. The ask I'd been expecting since the moment I'd learned about the Pinnacle contract. My father wanted me to lie, to destroy my own professional credibility, to paint myself as scatterbrained and irresponsible, to set myself on fire to keep his business warm. The old me, the me who'd existed 3 months ago, might have considered it, might have rationalized that it was just one email, just one small sacrifice to save my father's livelihood. But I wasn't that person anymore. No, I said. Lauren, please. I know we've had our problems, but I'm begging you. My business, everything I've built, it's all going to disappear. Your mother and I, we won't be able to afford the house. We'll lose everything. You lost everything the moment you gave Amber a key to property you didn't own. I said. You made a choice. You chose to prioritize Amber's convenience over basic legal and ethical boundaries. Now you're facing consequences. That's not my fault. That's not my responsibility to fix. You're being cruel, he said. You're being vindictive. This is revenge because you think we favored Amber. This isn't revenge, I said. Revenge would be me actively trying to hurt you. What I'm doing is removing myself from your crisis. I'm refusing to be your solution. There's a difference. What am I supposed to do? He asked, and his voice cracked. How am I supposed to fix this? The same way I figured out how to pay for college. The same way I figured out how to save for a condo. The same way I figured out every problem I've ever had without your help. You figure it out, Dad. You adapt. You make hard choices. You face reality. I raised you better than this, he said. I raised you to care about family. You raised me to be useful, I corrected. To be a resource you could extract from. To solve problems you created. And I'm done. I'm done being your backup plan. I'm done being Amber's safety net. I'm done sacrificing myself so you can avoid consequences. If I lose the business, we'll lose the house, he said. We'll have to downsize. Your mother will be devastated. Then you'll downsize, I said. You'll live in a smaller house. You'll adjust your lifestyle. You'll survive. Just like I survived working 3 jobs in college. Just like I survived being treated like the family ATM for 3 decades. You'll survive, Dad. You just won't be comfortable. And maybe that discomfort will teach you something about boundaries and consequences in treating people like human beings instead of resources. Lauren, please. I have to go, I said. I have a meeting. Good luck with everything. I hung up before he could respond, blocked his number. Then I blocked my mother's number. Then I blocked every family member I